Greetings to all of our dedicated listeners of the Restore Your Health podcast. I'm your host, LaRonda, and today we have with us professional counselor Tamela Burton to help us navigate through some mindful mental health conditions. And she's going to talk a little bit about what we've been going through and just kind of help us kind of navigate through some solutions today. Before I get started, let me share that all information shared on the show is for informational and educational purposes only, not meant to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. I like to start with a little inspiration. And today we have an inspirational quote, and it just simply says, "The way to get started is to quit talking and to begin doing." You see, we have to start doing what we always dreamed about. Okay. Anyone can just say that they want to start doing something, but it's something that can be said about a person that can just go ahead and start and begin again and do what you were called to do. All right, let us get started. Well, we have with us Miss Tamela Burton. Hi, Tamela. How are you today? Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for being on the show. We are excited. We're excited. We're going to talk a little bit about mental health and, just kind of help us maneuver through some of the craziness that's been going on in our world. We're just coming out of COVID, 2 years of COVID, actually, and it's put a lot of strain on a lot of people. And even beside that, just, things people go through on a day-to-day basis, like, family, work, things of that nature. We all just need a little bit of help. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen so that we can see our slide that we have today. And then we're going to go ahead and get started with it. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes,
all right.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and talk about mental health. And we have a few questions. And one of our questions is, what conditions play a role in overall mental health?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank you for having me on the show. But the conditions that play a role in our overall mental health.
Yes, ma'am.
Are everyday things that's going on right now. COVID is a big one right now. Even dealing with family issues, divorce, death, grief, job loss, relationship issues, relationship loss. There are several things that can affect your everyday cause of mental health illness. So there are a lot of stressors that go with everyday things that we're doing. So just everyday life can be stressful. So we have to take care of our mental health that way.
Yes, it's so important for us to take care of our mental health. And I talk a lot about that on the show, about, especially if we're doing self-care, we have to take care of ourselves, because if we don't, no one else will. Let me ask you this. How can different therapy approaches help alleviate symptoms of exhaustion? Because, we're always going. And sometimes we can get exhausted and not even know that, we're exhausted. But our bodies will tell us, hey, you need to slow down. You're doing too much. But how can we alleviate some of those symptoms?
That's definitely one way your body approaches to therapy. There are several, but like the ones that are really big right now is CBT. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And this therapy helps identify any negative thoughts that might be contributing to our depression and try to replace them. We let our thoughts, which aren't facts, take over, and it starts to change our mood. So cognitive behavioral therapy also helps us identify any behavioral changes that can help improve your mood. So basically, we're trying to replace those negative thoughts with positive and more factual thoughts, because I tell people that our brains are like a blank canvas, and our thoughts create the picture. So we can have a beautiful masterpiece, or we can have a nightmare. So we have to watch our thoughts
Yes, that's so important.
And then there's also, there's like psychoanalyst. They use talk therapy to explore thoughts, patterns, reactions, and feelings that people have. And once the unconscious mental material is brought forward in discussion, you will have better control over your emotions and behaviors. And that's how we can stay and mentally healthy.
That makes
And
a
then the
lot of sense.
really big one is that's also used as psychodynamic theory. Yeah, it does. It does. And another big one is psychodynamic therapy, and it helps us deal with depression. It helps to promote self-examination and self-awareness and self-reflection. And it will allow you to develop coping strategies to deal with new problems based on your awareness and your intentional action rather than reacting to feelings and thoughts. So psychodynamic therapy is very helpful with anxiety by recognizing and understanding and expressing and overcoming various conflicts. And one doctor said it helps a person deal with repressed emotions in order to improve their relationships and can affect a variety of emotional struggles. And also, there's psychoanalytic therapy that people also use that kind of we deal with things as children and sometimes they aren't resolved. Like maybe somebody was abused as a child. That type of therapy helps with that. Yeah, so
Wow.
there are different types of many different approaches to therapy. Those are just a couple that I've named.
Wow, that's very informational. We definitely need to be more aware and be more intentional, about our conscious and what we're doing, just to improve ourselves. So that information, I think, applies to
Yeah.
a lot of people. A lot of people. What are some known signs of early mental stress in the workplace that people should know? Now, I know a lot of us, a lot of people now since the pandemic have been working from home, and you still have some that drive to work, but a lot of people are working from home and they're raising children from home, and they're having multiple jobs at home, and it's stressful. It's putting on, you have workplace stress, and then you have home stress, and all of that's, in the midst of everything intertwining together. So what are some things that we should know about that?
Well, you should look for a fatigue. That's one of the main things. How tired are you after you're done with work? Do you have the energy to even deal with your children or to talk to your spouse or to even, talk on the phone to people? That's one of the main things. But, of course, there's headaches, muscle tension, heart palpitations. Like if you're having all this when you're going to work, then you need to step back, sleeping difficulties such as insomnia or even like your stomach being upset, such as like diarrhea or gastrointestinal upsets, or even acne, dermatological disorders can cause us to break out, or hives, stress. Those are all stress things. So, you should watch for things at work, such as arguments, higher staff turnover, more people calling in sick, decreased performances. These are all things that companies are looking at now to see the early mental signs of stress so they can kind of nip it in the bud. I know at my job, they're always telling us that the EAP services are available. So if you have that at your job, you need to take advantage of those, because there's also mood swings, being withdrawn, loss of motivation and commitment to your job. And I'm in the field of mental health. So if I'm feeling like this, I wouldn't be able to do my job to assist people. So I would need to step back and take time off. So there are certain signs that you can see, physical signs that you can see, and also just signs you can see all around you at your workplace.
And another reason to take a little vacation, right? A
Yeah.
getaway.
Take that PTO.
An excuse to get away. There it is.
Yes, take it.
Yes, we definitely have to take care
Yes.
of ourselves, and just be mindful, of of when we are feeling that way, because I think sometimes we can kind of dismiss those feelings, but it's very important to be aware and to know when to slow down and when to know when, hey, I need to take a little mini vacation, just get away for a weekend and reset my mind and come back and be all fresh and new. Awesome, awesome. And so,
Yes.
what are the risk factors of mental health conditions? When people hear mental health, they get a negative vibe, but mental health, that can range from a number of different conditions. So can we talk a little bit about the risk factors
Yes. So,
of mental health conditions?
yeah, well, the risk factors include things like some things we can't control, like heredity. Like sometimes schizophrenia is actually a disease that's a hereditary, and bipolar can be hereditary as well. But other things like our socioeconomic status, some people in certain areas seem to experience more, like, let's say, PTSD in lower income areas because of the violence that's around them. Some of them tend to experience that more than those who live in higher income areas. So, your environment where you live is the risk as a risk factor as well. And homelessness and unemployment are also risk factors. I work in a program that we assist people who are homeless and have unemployment issues into getting to their own apartments. And they do have some mental health issues, and that's why they're part of our program. But also alcohol and drug use are definitely a big factor in mental health conditions, or they can exacerbate
Mm-hmm.
mental health conditions that are there. So if people are using alcohol and drugs, that can cause other conditions to appear. And discrimination,
And how can a person,
of course, and racial injustice, we've been going through that for the last, for years. So like, I'm not going to say the last 10 years, no, for hundreds of years, the African American community and Hispanic community and even the Asian community has been discriminated against and had racial injustice. So all of these things together can cause stressful events and can cause mental health conditions. And family conflicts can also cause mental health conditions and stressful life events.
wow. And so how can a person, amid all of that, how can they recognize when they need to seek professional counseling and therapy? A lot of people are in denial and they don't think that they need help.
Yeah.
So
Well, I had somebody email me DM me through Facebook and saying, do you think I should go to therapy? And I told them that if it's affecting your everyday life, it's time to get help. If it's controlling everything you do, like if you can't get out of bed in the morning or it takes you hours and hours and you're just sitting there, it's time to get help. When you're not enjoying being around your friends and family and you start to isolate yourself, it's time to get help. And I tell people it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help, but it's a sign of strength. So if you know someone's struggling, tell them it's okay to reach out.
Okay to reach out, that's right.
And to get help, because that is definitely a sign of strength. It's something we need to do definitely in these days of time.
I think we all need to have some type of counseling. It's beneficial for everyone to have some form of counseling, whether it's through a trusted friend, a professional counselor, therapist.
I'm a client myself. I've been there, done that.
Group, all of the above. We definitely need that trusted someone who we can confide in and say, hey, I'm struggling in this area, or what do you think about this area? Because we can think that we're doing okay, but someone else on the outside can see that, oh, okay, we need a little, help in this area. So thank you so much for that. We'll definitely let people know they can reach out to anyone, a trusted person, but to make sure that that person's a trusted individual that they can confide in. Okay, so we're gonna let's talk a little bit about the effects of mental health and how it can impact our physical health. A lot of people don't know that our mind is the most powerful thing that we have, and our mind tells our body what to do, and so how can we, let's talk a little bit about, the effects of the mind, the mental health, and our physical being.
Well, with I explained this a little bit earlier, but it's the physical health. It's the heart palpitations, the headaches, the muscular tension, the fatigue, the weight gain and weight loss is a big one. Then I talked about the dermatological disorders. So those are physical things that can impact our health, and that's and when we talk about mental health, but there's also those physical things.
Yes.
So if you start to feel those and you start to feel them on a regular basis, especially like with the weight gain and the weight loss, then you do definitely need to reach out to someone.
Yeah. And that kind of rolls over into building meaningful relationships, that will help to lower the risk of developing different type of mental conditions. People have someone they can confide in. Yes, absolutely. And what are some protective risk of negative factors of mental health?
So protective risk factors are negative risk. Let's talk about the negative risk.
Okay, let's do the negative
factors first. I'm sorry. The negative risk factors can be, the biophysical, the family history of mental health problems, complications during birth, maybe like personal history or traumatic brain injury, a chronic mental health condition. Parkinson's is a really big one. Alcohol and drug use and poor nutrition, lack of sleep. And then there's the psychological aspects. We talked about life stresses, such as financial problems or, legal issues or rape. Things like that can really affect our mental health. And having low self-esteem or poor academic achievement also be negative risk factors. And, the social as a child or being abused in relationships or, with maybe your parents might have abused you when you were younger. That could be considered a negative risk factors. Growing up poor. And our spiritual risk factors are like when perception of being irredeemable. Like a lot of spiritual people think that someone is irredeemable. And when you put that on someone, that's kind of a negative impact on them. And they're perceived that they can't be, welcomed into their religion or their church that they're a part of, or conflicting thoughts around deep religious beliefs is another thing that can be a negative risk factor. We need to, yes, we embrace religion, but when you go to an extreme, like someone like Jim Jones, for instance, went to extreme, that was definitely a mental issue that he was experiencing, that he had.
Yes, definitely.
But I believe like a positive risk factors are also like our family. Hopefully your family can be a positive risk factors. Having friends, definitely being connected to people, being cared for by other people, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel optimistic about the future. Having good relationships can help lower stress and reduce the risk of relapse of anything. Other people often think about committing suicide, but their relationships can keep them from doing that. If they have a child or a spouse or a partner in life, that helps lower the risk for having mental health conditions. So protective factors are things such as friends, family, even having a higher level of education can be a protective factor because it can help you to become more financially stable. And those type of things are great protective factors. So those are things that you should look out for, and definitely take care of yourself, and exercise is a great protective factor. Listening to music is a great coping skill. There are really a lot of things. Journaling is a great coping skill that you can use to help with your mental health issues that you're having.
Because we all need community. We were created to be in community with one another.
Yes.
And, when we go in isolation, it kind of singles you out to, for the mental attacks, so to say. So it's best to be in community with other people, to help kind of maneuver through some of those emotions that we feel. Because a lot of times the emotions that we feel are false. They're just suggestions of, little things that, hey, you're not this and you're not capable of doing this. And a lot of people have those. We all have those, from time to time. And those on top of childhood traumas and things of that nature, can really play a toll on a person if they're in isolation and they feel like they're alone. So definitely being in community is definitely helpful thing there, to be in community with other people. And we talk about the negative.
And not just the online person. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, having a community is the best thing, but not just an online community, but people you can actually touch and feel, because there are still influencers and people who are on social media who had a huge following. They still ended up committing suicide. So that's something you need to be able to have a physical community. An online community is great, but you need to have a physical community as well.
Yes, having that one-on-one is very important. Being in community with someone you can tangibly talk to and touch, because we were meant to feel, touch, smell, taste, all the senses, and we need to have that. It's very important to have that sense of real time one-on-one community, so to say. So having people who support you, people who believe in you, people who will push you to do your best. It's very important to do that. And I think that you're right on that. An online community is definitely different than, the in-person, but that's the era that we live in nowadays. Everybody's online, and everybody has a following. Everybody's doing something on social media, but social media, it's what it is, social media. And we need that one-on-one community to help us.
Yeah, it is. It's a two-edged sword.
Yeah. Social media can't give you a hug like a real person can. You can't, someone can say,
I like social media, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I like social media, don't get me wrong, it's great. It really puts a lot out there. And if some people are struggling, they do find help through social media, but it's also good to have a physical presence as well.
Yeah, I know for myself, I have, since the last few years, I've been adapting to more of a social media thing. And that's just because of business. For business, you have to post things for your business on social media. And so I've been doing that with the podcast, and, I sing and write songs and stuff like that. So I, post things of that nature, and, and try to support people that I know that are on social media doing some of the same things. But it's nothing like having that one-on-one person that you can actually feel and touch and hug, and and be in community with. So that's very, very important. Yeah, and that's a big one. Okay, so what's the best approach to dealing with everyday stress, and how should we deal with it to impact our thoughts as they pertain to how we can potentially change our mindset? So in other words, how can we take those tools and apply them to our way of thinking? How can we change our way of thinking so that we can better our lives?
I guess I kind of jumped ahead on. this. I talked about exercising and journaling, spending time with the family. I just kind of went and meditating is a good thing. Having a set routine that people can, having a set routine really helps. And
Oh,
we can
yes.
deal with the impact on our thoughts by how it can change our mindset. A great way to change your thoughts is to appreciate and enjoy what you already have versus what you don't have. And that's why I say social media is a two-edged sword, because a lot of people look at other people and what they do have and not enjoy what they already have.
That's right.
So it's not to, we're happy that that person has what they have, but a lot of people start to be intronistic, take in when they feel like they should have it as well. But it's not about what you don't have, it's about what you already have.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big one. I think that
Enjoy life and
I think that, for I won't say the millennials, but everyone, so to say, we look at social media and we see the lives of other people. And of course, everybody's going to post their best life now. Nobody wants to post that, hey, I'm struggling, I'm going through this. So, a lot of times what we see is not what's really
exactly,
going on. Yes, it's not accurate. It's
exactly.
they want you to see, so to say.
I
But
had a friend who was posting all these lovely pictures about her situation.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. But we definitely need to reevaluate the way we see life, and how we view things on social media versus, community in real life. But this has definitely been very educational. Thank you so much for sharing all this information with us. We're going to post the video on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube page for people to go back and revisit and just kind of go over some of these questions that we talked about today, because a lot of things that we talked about, people are going through right now in our community, in our country, and we need to know how to navigate, what to do, what do I do next, how do I do this, and recognize and be more aware and be intentional about how we maneuver and change our lives for the better. And just having the know of what mental health is. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. But before we close out, I want to share that we have a natural supplement called MindWise, and it's full of antioxidants, omega-3 vitamins, and it's very good for cardiovascular health as well. You guys can get this on our Young Living website. So you can purchase that on our website, and it helps you with your cognitive health. Things of the mental health that we've been talking about today. Well, guys, thank you guys so much for joining us on our broadcast today for the Restore Your Health podcast. As always, if you like this video, click the subscribe button and share with a friend. Until next weekend, have an amazing weekend, everyone.